I'm legally insane, and right here are 10 PS2 hidden gems, bangers, and even some trash, guys. I got some trash in here. Damn! But here's the thing about the trash. Even the trash games can still be good games. And I don't get bad games. Never in my life have I ever gotten a bad game.
Stop the cap.
Because there is such thing as bad games that can still be fun, and there is such thing as so good it's bad. And I happen to like those games. All of these games are recent pickups. I'm going to let you know what I bought, what I paid for each of these games, and why you might also be interested in these games. And there's some real unique gems in here. There is at least, I guarantee you, I would bet my balls that there is one or two games in here that you've never heard of. That's how confident I am. I got some real interesting pieces in here. So let's get started. So back to the PS2 games, in no particular order, except for the first one because we're starting off strong. Complete hidden gem, Automodelista. This is a racing game, but it's made by Capcom. And this is the type of game, this game's gaining more and more popularity with every year, every month, and every frickin' day that passes. This is becoming a cult classic. But there's a lot of things that you need to know about this game. There's some unique stuff going on here, and the community is divided on this version and whether or not this is a good game. And I'm going to tell you why. So this game is very interesting because there's two versions. This is the US version. This is a very unique version. They changed this from the original Japanese version. It is not the same. This version is known to focus on grip, whereas the Japanese version focuses on drift. A lot of drifting going on in the Japanese version. And the reason why they changed it is because the Japanese version didn't sell very well, so they thought that they should make some changes. But the Japanese version is now become a cult classic, and many will tell you that the Japanese version is much better. This is cel-shaded graphics, by the way, timeless graphics. Capcom racing game, guys. The graphics don't get old. That's the beauty of cel-shaded graphics. They'll always look good. It doesn't matter what generation the game came out on. Cel-shaded graphics look beautiful no matter what. Before I forget, I paid $14 for this. CIB. I'm going to jail. Because this is what you call a steal of a deal. Because this is going for $41 on price charting. Commonly sells for $50 to $60 Canadian dollars on eBay. So I got a steal of a deal on the seller. I actually felt kind of bad buying it from the guy. I felt kind of bad. Because the thing is, I got this in a private auction group. And the thing is, this is a racing game. So a lot of people, unless you know what you're looking for, the average person looks at this and says, oh, it's a racing game. What's it worth? $10? Oh, it's Capcom. What's it worth? 14. I'm not paying more than 14. That guy bid 14. I'm not going to pay more than that. Well, it's probably worth 15 maximum. It's a racing game. But sometimes racing games become rare gems. By the way, there's a GameCube version that's worth a hell of a lot more. Yeah, that's why I have the PS2 version, because the GameCube one ain't cheap. So I'd rather just get the PS2 version. So this is known as the US tuned version. They did add new features. They added new cars and new tracks versus the Japanese version. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe the European version might be based on the Japanese version as well. So keep that in mind. North American version is very, very different. So the physics of this racing game are a combination of both arcade and simulation racing. This was Capcom's answer to the Gran Turismo series, Ridge Racer, and Need for Speed. This was them entering the market for racing games. Because they don't make racing games no more, by the way. Not that I know of. Not car racing games, at least. They haven't made one since the OG Xbox made an unofficial sequel to this. That was the end of it. They tried to make a dent. They tried to come into the market, do something unique, something different, sell shaded graphics, unique racing style. They had everything going. Good music, great soundtrack. But the community is divided because the handling is so different. Remember, one is focused on drifting, and this one. So the average player would come into this game. You would turn it on, you would play a race or two, and you would say, this game sucks. The handling is garbage. I feel like I'm driving on ice. I'm not making these turns. I'm done. The average person would compare it to, oh, this isn't pick up and play like Need for Speed. This isn't pick up and play like Ridge Racer. This isn't pick up and play like Gran Turismo. I cannot figure this out. I've given it 1 or 2 races. I'm out of here. Well, if you did that, you've missed out. So that's why the community is split. Some people do that and they say the game sucks. But other people, the ones that put the time and the effort in to understand the game, they went into it. They said the same thing after a race or two. But then they learned that you have to tune your car. Okay, the cars are very customizable. Very, extremely customizable. So you have to tune the car. You got to tweak the car, make the setting adjustments, adjust the grip, adjust the tires, and get used to the controls. And if you do that, you will understand and you will quickly learn that this game is a cult classic for a reason. And there are people that love this game for a reason. So once you do that, it's just like any other racing game. So there's a bit of a learning curve, I guess you could say. That's the only difference. There's a learning curve. If you can get over the learning curve, it's just as good as any other racer on the market. Number 2 on the list is a very expensive PS2 game, Suikoden number 5. Okay. CIB, I paid an arm and a leg for this one, guys, but it is in great condition. Paid $140 Canadian for this. Good condition, CIB. But this same type of game, if I were to get this on eBay right now, I'd be looking at about $170, $160 actually, plus tax is the current cheapest version. $160 plus tax is what I would be paying. I paid $140, no tax, trustworthy seller, great condition. And I was happy to pay it. This particular series is something I'm not too familiar with. I only ever played Suikoden number 2 on the PS1. And that game is, in my opinion, the best Suikoden game. And even though I haven't played any of the other ones, I don't need to play any of the other ones to know that that one's the best one. And I'm not the only one that says that either. But I decided, you know what, I really wanted this game. Yes, and not just because I think the value will go up over time. That's not why. That's not the only reason I got this game. And I didn't get it just because it's the most expensive and possibly the rarest one. I got it because this is the one that I want to try as the very second game that I play. Like, I actually legitimately want to play this game. But this game does follow standard Suikoden gameplay. You've got your RPG standard mechanics, 108 characters that you can recruit. You can have 6 characters in battle at a time in this version. There are still the war strategy gameplay style, gameplay levels, we'll call it, events that come up. And one unique thing about those events is that they are fought in real time, and that there is a combination of both land and sea battles for those real-time war strategy sessions. Now, one thing I do know about this game is that to get the best ending, you have to get all 108 characters, and it's very easy to miss one of those characters. Some of them are time sensitive. Some of them you have to do because at a certain point in the game, because you won't be able to go back and get that character later. So for that reason, people do recommend using a guide to beat the game, which is likely what I would do, to be honest. I don't necessarily want to use a guide. I don't mind using a guide. I used to use guides for RPGs back in the day. I enjoyed using guides. Some people say, using a strategy guide takes away from the game. Oh, it makes the game, not fun anymore. You don't feel like you accomplished anything. Well, I never felt that way. In fact, I don't know, for whatever reason, I loved using a guide. I loved reading the guide. I loved seeing the pictures of the guide. I used a guide all through Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo, and I played through that game multiple times. I never had a problem with it. I loved it. I even had the unofficial guide for Final Fantasy VII. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm not going to hide the fact that I quote, cheated with using the guides. I never missed a single materia because I had the guide. I never spent 50 hours running around trying to find out how to get the gold chocobo or chocobo, whatever you call it. I just used the guide. I don't know. I never had a problem with it. So I don't have a problem using a guide. I kind of enjoy it. But in my older age, I will admit that I deliberately choose not to use a guide for most games now, just because I want to experience what it's like to not use a guide, because I didn't really experience that for most of my RPGs, the ones that had guides available. Not all of them, but I had a guide for some major ones, in particular Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy VII, and those were my most played RPGs. So great game, 60 frames per second too, by the way. Okay, next up, I got two games. I'm calling them games. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. And I know you've never heard of it. I guarantee that. It still counts as a game. I don't care. These are technically DVDs. I paid $6 for this bundle. So $3 a piece. They came together. They're very rare. Very hard to find, not many available. This is called, what do they call this? This is called Negation. This is a digital comic book series that plays on your PS2 and your Xbox. They advertise it as something that you should play on your Xbox, PS2 or PC. But it is technically a DVD. But they're selling it almost as if it's a game. This is a digital comic book series. And I think they've made other comic books as well. But this particular one is for a comic called Negation, which I know nothing about. I only bought this because I just thought it was so, just really interesting. So this one is volumes 1 to 6. And this one is volumes 7 to 12. And some of these are rare as hell. So basically what it is, it's an interactive comic with voice actors. So you're not just reading the comic, it's, almost like a TV show, a cartoon or something, a comic book. A comic book come to life. It's really, really interesting. I'd never seen something like this before, so I just thought, hey, you know what? I'm just going to get it. Really interesting stuff. I didn't want to turn it down. $3 a piece. You can't go wrong. Very unique piece of history. For number 4, I've got a game so bad, it's good. And I'm recommending it. I pay $2 for Super Truck Racing. What is this price chart for? This price chart's for $6. So it's not worth much. And it shouldn't be worth much. Super Truck Racing, one of the most generic titles I've ever seen. I know nothing about truck racing. Maybe that's what truck racing is called. Like Formula One. There's Formula One and there's Super Trucks Racing, maybe. I don't know. It seems like a really dumb generic name. I know that truck racing is a thing. CIB, of course. I don't get games that aren't CIB most of the time unless I'm planning to sell them. And I'll tell you guys when I'm planning to sell something. Sometimes I buy games to sell them. I'm keeping all these. Except for maybe these. I might play these and then sell them. So this Super Truck Racing game surprisingly got pretty good reviews. Okay, this got average reviews. We're talking like an average 7 out of 10. Average. That's not bad. Because I thought that this was shovelware. And hell, it might have been shovelware. Like this was probably a discount game. In the discount bin. Okay, so I've played this. And I played this on 2-player. What I like about this game. I liked the fact that you really felt like you were driving a large truck. It's very different from any other racing game. I don't know how else to describe it. They coded the handling of the trucks perfectly. And it's not necessarily easy, there's a learning curve. You're not just going to hit the X button and get first place on your first go. No, there is a learning curve. It is possible to get good at the game. It just has handling mechanics. I can't describe it, but it feels different than a car racing game. And you will notice it right away. And it just feels exactly like you're driving a truck. It has other mechanics as well. There's a management mechanic where you have to manage your limited resource of being water to cool your brakes. So there's some strategy and deeper elements to the game other than just racing. It's not just racing. You can select to put that as an automatic thing where the AI will cool your engines for you or your brakes for you. But even then, it's still a limited resource. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 modes. There's championship mode, your standard circuit from Mario Kart type of deal. Single race, that's where you can also do 2-player. There is an arcade mode, which is kind of dumb in my opinion. It's just like a classic arcade, in the olden days where you pass checkpoints to get more time. That's what that is. Kind of dumb. Time trial. Don't care. And last man standing, a unique mode where it's a process of elimination. So as you pass certain laps, more and more trucks will get eliminated until finally there's one truck left. So a little bit different than a standard race. A little bit unique. They put more effort in this game than I thought they would have. I'll tell you that right now. I think this game passes as a classic, so bad it's good racing game. I think they tried, They probably had a low budget, but they tried. And it turned out okay. Next up, we got Capcom Classic Collections Volume 2. I got this brand new. You can get this brand new right now. $25 Canadian on Amazon and roughly the same price on eBay. You can get this right now. Very, very cheap. I don't know if they I don't know if these are reprints or what the deal is, but there's been new copies available for a very, very long time. They are starting to sell out, so there's, not too many still left on the market, but they had reprinted hundreds, if not thousands of these at one point. Or they found them in a warehouse, whatever it was. But I got this because, number one, it's cheap. I mean, you can get it cheap or used. I just happen to, I'll pay the extra, get a brand new one. I don't care. I'll pay the extra $5 for a brand new one. $20, $18, I think. You can get a used one right now, good condition. Frig it, I'll just pay $25, get a brand new one. I don't care. This has 20 Capcom arcade games on here. So it's important to know these are the arcade versions. But in particular, I got this for a handful of the games that I'm familiar with. 1941, sure. But more particularly, Captain Commando arcade version, Knights of the Round arcade version, and King of Dragons, the best beat 'em up ever made, arcade version. I have all of those games on the Super Nintendo. Oh, and by the way, also Magic Sword arcade version, which I also have on the Super Nintendo. So we're talking Captain Commando, one of the best beat 'em ups ever made, Super Nintendo. Talking Knights of the Round, one of the best beat 'em ups ever made, Super Nintendo. King of Dragons, one of the best the best beat 'em up ever made, Super Nintendo. And Magic Sword, not a beat 'em up, but side-scrolling action game, one of the best side-scrolling action games ever made, Super Nintendo. Except the Super Nintendo version has slowdown, so the Super Nintendo version kind of sucks. There's other cool games in here that I've never heard of. Quiz and Dragons, Sidearms, Speed Rumbler, Strider. Hey, I know that one. That's a good game. Frig, man. Tiger Road, Three Wonders. Oh, Three Wonders is a... If I'm not mistaken, that is a side-scrolling run-and-gun game. If I'm not mistaken. I might be mixing it up with another game, but I'm fairly certain. Avengers is a shoot-'em-up. Eco Fighters, I'm not sure. Lots of good games on here. So this is a great, cheap alternative to the Super Nintendo versions. Super Nintendo versions are the best, by default. But the Super Nintendo versions are only 2 players. So for example, you can do 3-player King of Dragons, because it's based on the arcade version. And if you're a big fan of those games, this is a great way to enjoy these games again in a different style with very slight differences and upgraded graphics. So these are some of my favorite games. And I just thought, hell, I can get this, play 3-player, play 4-player. I don't have that optionality on the Super Nintendo versions. So great game for a great price. And if you want a brand new one, pick it up while they're still in stock. All right, number 6, 7, and 8 is a 3-in-1. I've got SmackDown versus Raw, 2008, but this is a very special version. It's got the bonus DVD, and this is a very rare version, very difficult to get the bonus DVD. So for this version, I paid $12, and with the bonus DVD, it commonly sells for between about 30 to as high as 40 bucks. This DVD is rare as hell. CIB, but there's a bonus DVD at the back. And be very careful buying this game. I've seen a listing as we speak. There's a listing on eBay. Some guy advertising this game saying he has the bonus DVD. But when you actually look at the bonus DVD, the untrained eye wouldn't know this. He's got like some Shawn Michaels Undertaker DVD on there. I'll put it up on screen. That's not the bonus DVD. So he probably had this game as a kid or bought it at a pawn shop, and the DVD was swapped. He's got like a standard wrestling DVD. It's not this actual video game bonus DVD. This is from the freaking video game. It's not some actual WWE DVD. It's an exclusive bonus disc. So the seller, he doesn't know. He's obviously not trained. I did get ripped off a little bit though, because this case is actually torn and the seller put a piece of tape here. But it's still a good deal overall. So I don't mind. I mostly got this particular version because it came with the bonus disc and it was a good price. I don't know much about that game, but I do know all about this game right here. Because this is arguably the best wrestling game ever made. This is SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain, PS2.
And all I wanted to do was play SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain.
I remember a lot of fights over this game.
I think if you ask a lot of people, this might be their number one.
This is also Smackdown. Here Comes the Pain, PS2. I now own 3 copies, but I brought up 2 for a reason. So, first of all, I paid $22 for this version right here. I paid $22, price charts for $47, commonly sells for $50 to $60 on eBay. This is great condition, $22. Yeah, I'm going to buy a 3rd copy. I don't care. For $22, I can sell this, make a profit. Guys, I will, basically what you don't understand is I will purchase a game just to make $2. If I can make $2, I will happily purchase that game and sell it for $2 profit. What I'm willing to do for $2, you don't want to know. Because I'll do it. I don't play around when it comes to that sort of thing. And I will make more than $2 on this game. And I haven't even sold it yet. I'm holding on to them for now. But this other version here, this is a very special version. I had bought this a long time ago. And I paid probably about I think it was $56 on eBay a couple years ago. But I paid it because, look at this. It came with this memory card from the OG owner. And it turns out he lived in my city. He came to my door and dropped it off personally. I'm not even kidding. That was just by pure random chance. Like, I bought it on eBay. I didn't pay attention to where the guy lived. He was the cheapest on eBay. Or he might not have been the cheapest, but he offered this memory card. And this has all of the characters unlocked. Everything is unlocked. So he beat the game and unlocked all the arenas, all the new wrestlers, everything. So I don't have to lift a finger. So I thought that was awesome. I had to buy it. I had to. And when he dropped it off, we were talking about this game, and he was saying that this is one of his favorite games. So this game here commonly gets named as the best wrestling game ever made. Community is divided on which game is better, SmackDown vs. Raw or WWF No Mercy for the N64. And there's a 3rd game that I hear named every now and then. Let me get it for you right now. It's a GameCube game. I don't have it CIB. But I do have the disc, Day of Reckoning 2. I paid like $5 for the disc a long time ago. So I am on the hunt for either a CIB version or a manual and case. So those are basically the top 3, which leads me to the next number 8 on the list, Smackdown Shut Your Mouth. I only recently found out about this game. And apparently, this is really freaking good. It's not as good as this, which puts this as a top contender in what I am currently naming as the number 4 4th best wrestling game ever made. Based on what I've heard. So this is a bit of a hidden gem that I don't think too many people know about. But I'm telling you, based on what I'm hearing, this is a contender. And this just may very well be the 4th best wrestling game ever made. So for this one here, I paid, what did I pay for that? I paid $9. Price charts for $20.45 Canadian. And yeah, you can sometimes find one on eBay for under $20. But this one's in good condition. So I did find one for $18, but it has sticker on it. So this is mint condition. I'll pay $9-10 for this any day of the week. This one, I'm looking forward to checking this out. So how I found this game, interesting story. I was actually just browsing Facebook. And a random video from like a random Facebook site showed up, and it was a video of Smackdown Here Comes the Pain, just like a gameplay video, like a really funny, one of the more interesting matches. And I'm reading the comments, And of course, everyone in the comments is saying, oh yeah, that's the best wrestling game ever made. I remember that game, best game ever made. But then some people are saying, hey, this game looks similar to Smackdown Shut Your Mouth. Or some of the comments were also comparing and saying, oh, that game, I love that game, but I also love this game. So this game was getting floated around a lot. Maybe some people were even asking, hey, what game is that? Is that Smackdown Shut Your Mouth? Because they, couldn't quite tell from the gameplay. And so that's when I learned, I said, oh, I got to look into this game. I got to get this game. Number 9 is a very interesting game. I actually initially bought this by mistake. This is Astro Boy, the video game, but there's a different Astro Boy game called Astro Boy made by Sega. And that's what I thought this was when I paid $7 for it. I didn't realize it was the wrong Astro Boy. I've always wanted the Sega version. And I think the Sega version is actually really good. It's a 3D action game, we'll call it. It's made by Sega. It's a good game. Some people think it's not very good, but it's got better reviews than this game. And I had heard that this game sucks. So when I finally got this game and realized it's not the Sega version, I was very, very pissed off and disappointed. And I thought, I'm going to have to sell this on eBay, I guess. And not even get my money back, probably, after the fees and the shipping. Because I don't think it's worth that much. What did I pay for this? I paid, $7. Price charts for $13.17. I don't know if I'd be able to even get my money back. So I was very disappointed at first, but then I started looking into it. I looked up a gameplay video, and I immediately said to myself, you know what? Based on what I'm seeing, I'm watching the gameplay video. I'm watching like the full playthrough on YouTube. And I'm thinking, this game looks pretty good. It doesn't look bad to me. There's two aspects to the game. There's side-scrolling action stages, and then there's shoot-'em-up sections where you're a side-scrolling shooter stage. And I said, that's pretty awesome. It breaks up the monotonous gameplay. I love when games attempt to do that, especially when they do it successfully. It breaks up the repetitiveness of the game. So I was thinking, okay, maybe it doesn't look too bad. Maybe it's not too bad. And then I look in a little bit further and I say, wait a minute. This game is 2-player. I didn't know that. Had I known that, I would have bought it anyway. But I didn't know that when I bid on it and paid for it. And I had it sent and shipped to my door. I didn't know that at the time. So then I looked into it further yet again. And how the 2-player co-op works is it's just like single player, but now there's 2 Astro Boys on the screen. So there's no unique characters, which kind of sucks, but whatever. I'll take 2 Astro Boys. You give me 2-player co-op, I don't care what you're doing. It's 2-player co-op. It's automatically fun. And then I looked even further again, and I said, holy hell, they added one of my favorite mechanics. So you don't each just have your own individual lives, and when one player dies, he's out. I hate when games do that. It sucks. Because there's always one player that's significantly better than the other player. The best way to do it is like how Castle Crashers did it. Give the other player or players an opportunity to resurrect the dead guy. Let the dead guy come back into the game somehow. Alternative method to that, Hammer Watch Anniversary Edition. When your ally dies, your buddy dies, you can resurrect him, but then the consequence of that is you get linked. And then if one of you die, you both die and you're out. So they did something unique. They didn't quite follow either of those. Instead, how they do it is if you die and your buddy can stay alive for a set amount of time, you will automatically be resurrected with full HP, which guarantees that there's no waiting time. There's no, oh man, I suck at this game. I keep dying. I can't play anymore. I've got to wait 3 hours for you to beat the game. And now I just have to twiddle my thumbs for 3 hours. There's none of that. You will, if your buddy is good and he can stay alive, you will consistently come back to life no matter how bad you are. But if he does die, then you're out. You're both out. So the game got bad reviews. But based on what I've seen, it looks pretty freaking good to me. Okay? I think, like I said, guys, sometimes bad games are good, and sometimes people have their expectations are too high. Not every game is a AAA title. Not every game is Zelda Breath of the Wild. Not every RPG is Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo. Not every RPG can hold up to Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy XII. Not every game is as good as these Final Fantasy games. Okay, not every strategy game is as good as Gemfire for the Super Nintendo, even though some people say that game kind of sucks. Well, I don't think it sucks. I think it's a great freaking game. It's got some of the best music ever made. Never gets boring. So not every game is a 10 out of 10 game. So I'm looking at something like this and I'm saying, you know what? I bet it's a good game. It looks freaking good. It looks good to me. I didn't see anything I didn't like. And it's got 2-player. So by default, it's not a bad game. It's got 2-player co-op. There's your answer right there. These bad reviews are automatically incorrect. How about you go play 2-player and then tell me it's a bad game? Number 10, we've got Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. I've got the GameCube version, but I bought this one because I paid $2 for it. I'm not going to turn this down for $2. I can sell it. I can make money. I'm going to keep it, though, just because I love Need for Speed. And in Need for Speed 2 Hot Pursuit, the only reason I buy these games are for the Hot Pursuit mode. What do they call it? They call it PS2 version. They call it something different from the GameCube version. I wrote it down. It is called You're the Cop mode. And in this mode, you are catching the speeders. It's just like Super Chase HQ for the Super Nintendo. You have to ram into your opponent multiple times, into the criminals that you're trying to catch, multiple times to be able to arrest them. But in this is obviously significantly more advanced than Super Chase HQ for the Super Nintendo. It's a freaking PS2 game. Dang well better be more advanced. So in this game, they give you access to various cop tools. So you get access to... Your tools are the ability to call for a barricade. You can call for backup units to help you. You can place spike traps. And you can call for helicopter assistance to help you track your target. And this game is 2-player. 2-player. Here's how they describe it at the back. They do have a description that makes you want to play the game. Intense police pursuit with full squads of cruisers, choppers, and roadblocks. Oh yeah, this is the sequel to Need for Speed 3 for the PS1, by the way. When they first added that ability in for the very first time, I just about blew my balls off. Like, that was so mind-blowing. Put yourself back in the 90s when that game came out. When did Need for Speed 3 come out? 1999. Let's just say 1999. 2000 maybe. I don't know. But when they first added that feature in, I remember playing the game. One hand on the controller. One hand on my gun. Pointing the gun at my balls. Thinking to myself the whole time, should I blow my balls off? Should I do it? I didn't end up going through with it. But I thought about it. And that's the sign of a good game.
7825,
excuse me, officer, is there a bank around here?
Just cut to
to the chase in the most wanted cars. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2. Rated E for everyone.
There's technically 11 games here, guys. A lot of great, interesting titles. Some of which you knew about. Some of which you perhaps dislike. Some of you were looking at Super Trucks Racing and saying that game sucks. Some of you were looking at Automodelista saying that game sucks. And I'm looking at you saying, well, maybe you suck. Maybe you suck at the game. How about that? Some of you looking at Astro Boy. Oh, that game sucked. I had Astro Boy. That game sucked. Well, maybe you sucked at it. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you're the problem. Did you play 2-player? Did you play on 2-player co-op? Did you actually have a friend to play with? Because that would make the game funner. Try playing with a friend. So sometimes, if you're playing on single player, sometimes some of these games suck. They're not fun until you actually get a second player. Maybe try chasing your buddy as a police officer in one of the Need for Speed games. If you're not a Need for Speed fan, do different things. You got to spice up the gameplay and lower your expectations. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider checking out my unofficial sponsor. I've got links in the description below. This is Thursday Plantation Tea Tree Soap. I use this soap on my balls. This soap is great for cleaning your balls. And this is not medical advice, by the way. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to me. I'm legally insane. But between you and me, this soap right here is for your balls. Look up the health benefits of tea tree. It's got anti-bacterial properties. It's great for cleaning your balls. You're not going to find a better soap. If you're just using like regular soap, you're not really getting your balls all that clean. And while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel. Share the video with a friend. We're trying to get to over 9,000 subscribers. On my way to collecting over 9,000 retro video games. Guys, it's 3 a.m. I've been drinking Battletoads G Fuel all night. Cops are looking for me.